All right, we're right at 12 o'clock Central Standard Time, so we'll go ahead and get started. I first just really want to thank everybody, all of y'all, for joining us today, as well as those joining us over the video feed. We're really excited to make this event more robust. We're really excited to be able to include all of our employees working for APM at every level of the organization. On the video feed, we have a lot of our superintendents and our keymen, and we've even opened it up so that our craft can join. We're really excited about that because truly, for me, and I know for these leaders, at the heart of this event, this is supposed to be a celebration. This is a time for us to celebrate the successes that we have within our business. And that success really belongs to each and every one of you because you are the ones who make APM work. You come and you give your best time after time, and that's what takes our business forward. And so first of all, I want to start off by saying thank you. So we will get started. We'll have about a 30-minute business update. I'm going to turn it over to Jake here in just a moment. And we'll look at 2015 in review. What success did we have? What challenges did we face? Then we'll switch it over to 2016. We'll talk about our strategy for execution moving forward and then the vision for the business moving forward. So after that, we'll do about a 30-minute Q&A session. And everyone in the room will be able to ask questions. So go ahead while they're presenting. Think about the types of questions that you want to be asking. We definitely want this to be just an open forum where you can ask anything that's on your mind. Those joining us on the video feed will also have the opportunity to ask questions. So, final note, if you do have your cell phone on with you in your room, we would just ask either turn that off or put it on vibrate. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jake Locklear, our President and CEO.
I echo Katie's comments, welcoming you to our APM Works event for 2016. I'm excited to see everybody here in the room, excited to have people around the continent joining us today as we, again, look back at 15 and quickly transition to 16. 15's a month past already. Can't believe it's already February 2016. When we look at 2015, and when we look at our strategy and our vision, I want us to continue to remember this topic. We provide craft labor solutions. Our role as a business is to solve customer problems when it comes to craft. When we look at 2015 in review, and when we look at everything we do as a business, it starts with safety. It starts with the safety of our employees on the ground. And 15 was a difficult year for us when it comes to safety. We had 24 of our coworkers, 24 of our teammates get significantly hurt last year, needing medical treatment. We all know that's 24 too many, and we got to do better this year. That's our number one focus. Our number one execution focus for this year is keeping our teammates safe. Beyond that, 15 was a great year. You look at quality, you look at productivity, you look at our financial metrics, we knocked it out of the park. In quality, look at that number. 99.92% of every hour we work is done without any defect. It's amazing. When you look at productivity, 16% year-over-year improvement in productivity. That makes us more competitive. That drives down cost on jobs, which is what our customers are looking for. How can we be more competitive to make them more competitive in this economic environment? And financially, our shareholders are looking for us to deliver on an op plan. They give us a target, and we're expected to deliver that target. We knocked that target out of the park. We had a big year. We had a good year financially. So there's lots of things to be proud of. There's lots of success from 15. But our challenge again this year starts with safety and making sure that we keep our teammates safe. As we move into 16, I wanted to ground us on what is our charter, what is our vision, Where is we as a business going? I think it's important as we look at ourselves that we don't just look at year by year and quarter by quarter, but we think about what is our value? What do we bring to the table? Why are we here? What is APM supposed to be doing? And highlight two things from a charter statement that we've been using for a while. The first is, as we already talked about, craft labor solutions. We provide solutions to our customers' problems when it comes to craft. We're very good at it. We need to keep that customer focus in mind. Customer has a need, we can solve that need. The second is fulfillment excellence. Sometimes we get the question, what is success for APM? How do you define success for our business? And it's about fulfilling for our customers, fulfilling with excellence, having that commitment to excellence in the things that we just had on the previous slide. Safety, quality, productivity. And Mark's going to talk a little bit more about that, but I want to reiterate one point at the outset. Safety and quality drive productivity. If we keep people safe, and if we have quality craftsmanship, productivity will take care of itself. So that's our charter. That's why we exist. We provide solutions, and we strive for excellence in fulfillment of customer needs. What's our vision? Where are we going as a business? Not just in 16, but beyond. What do we as a business want to focus on 3 years, 5 years down the road? I want to talk to you about three things quickly. The first goes right back to where we left the last slide in fulfillment excellence, with the idea that we take ownership of the turbine deck. When it comes to our people's safety, we own it. We don't farm that out to anybody else. We own it. That means we need leaders, not only in this room, but leaders on the turbine deck that are driving that safety culture. And again, let me repeat again. Safety and quality will drive fulfillment excellence. Will drive the other things like productivity and cost control. That's how we provide solutions. That's how we define success. Taking ownership of that turbine deck that we're on and driving fulfillment excellence. The second is our business is a business of professionals and technicians. You know, we're talking about the next generation, not only of craftsmen, but of solutions to customer problems. And we need professionals, highly skilled technicians to provide solutions to those problems. You may hear today a little bit about things like smart devices and a concept called smart outage on the turbine deck. You know, that's the next generation, what they use. Next generation is used to having smart devices in their hands. I want to paint a brief picture for you. Imagine we're on a turbine deck and we're about to do a task, and our superintendent has a smart device, and he pulls up that task on his smart device and he shows a video. Here's how we correctly perform this task. And it has a safety bulletin on here's the things you need to watch out for from a safety perspective. Has a quality bulletin. Here's the things you need to do within this task to make sure it's done correctly. You know, imagine that being on a turbine deck, being available to craftsmen to drive performance on an outage. That's where the business needs to head long term. And we're going to start doing some of that this year. And third is targeted growth. This idea that we want APM. And this is not just a financial strategy. We're not looking just, it will bring income. The more work we do, the more income we get, but it doesn't just drive income. This also drives more work opportunities for our employees. And more work opportunities means more loyalty. Means more opportunities for our employees who give us fulfillment excellence to work. You know, one of the struggles we have in this business is we're a peak business. We ramp up in the spring, we come down in the summer, we ramp up in the fall, we come down in the winter. If we can find opportunities to give more work opportunities to those employees outside of those peaks, that gives them more access to APM culture, which drives fulfillment excellence. It gives them more work opportunities, more loyalty to APM. So that's not just a financial strategy. It's also a fulfillment strategy. As we look at 2016, some key focus areas I want you to keep in mind. First, when it comes to op plan and financials, any good shareholder wants a little bit more every year. You know, you're giving them good money, you want a little bit more. How can you get better? So we've got a little bit of a stretch this year on our financial op plan. We need to keep that in mind. Okay? Second, our fulfillment metrics. And we've got right up here this safety metric. We want to reduce that by 50%. We want to reduce our injuries by 50%. Okay, that's a metric on a piece of paper. What's our target? 0. Now, whether it's 0.5, 0.8, whether it's 6 injuries or 12 injuries, the target is 0. And let's not settle for 50% reduction. Let's get to 0. The rest of these, quality, we want to continue our improvement in quality, have a 10% reduction year over year on defects per million man hours, the DPMM category. We want to continue our effort in raising up best practices, good catches, concerns. We want a culture that's open. So we want to continue the increase in those reports that we get from the field and from each of you on what are things that we can do to get better. And we also want to drive our productivity, continue to be more competitive, drive out cost within the business, drive out cost within outages, 3% year-over-year improvement. And there's a reason why it's in this order with those KPI metrics. Safety, quality, a culture of openness will drive productivity. And then some strategic goals we have for the year. There's probably a lot of questions about Alstom. You've probably heard about this business called APCOM. APCOM is a boiler business. They employ boiler makers. They do work on boiler jobs. APM is a millwright business. We do work on a turbine deck with millwrights. It's oversimplified, but in a nutshell, that's what it is. We just got open to start talking with APCOM in November once the Alstom deal was closed at the GE level. So we met with them the week of Thanksgiving. Our leadership team went to Windsor to meet with APCOM the week of Thanksgiving. And then you have the holidays and you have the year-end closing activities of the business that we operate today. And now our leadership teams are just now getting back engaged with the APCOM teams with the idea of providing a solution to our customers for all craft labor, union craft labor in North America. That's the vision for Alstom and APCOM when it comes to our business. One solution for our customer for any union craft labor need on an outage. There's a lot of work that gets there, and it's going to be done in stages. We're still learning about APCOM. Like I said, the doors were just open to each business talking to each other late last year. So we're still learning a lot about APCOM. Some of our focus right now is more on the financial back-end side. Are there synergies that can be created in the systems and how we process things, how we process payroll, how we process time? Okay, there's some synergies we can drive there. There's also some synergies we've already driven from a turbine deck perspective. We're starting to get work coming to APM that Alstom was doing with third-party contractors. So we're seeing some growth opportunities immediately. We're talking about significant man-hour growth from the millwright perspective on the turbine deck just by fulfilling jobs that Alstom was using third parties for. So that's another synergy opportunity, an opportunity to create this solution for our customers. There's a lot of things we're still learning, and there's a lot of stuff that we don't know answers to yet. There's lots of strategy discussions going on that haven't been finalized. So I know you're going to have questions, and we're open to taking those questions, but recognize we're still learning about that business as well. And as the strategy continues to develop, and as we work on those synergies, we'll continue to share that with you. This idea of an affiliate value story. Talked a little bit about earlier. If you look at the top, we're being measured both on fulfillment metrics, safety, quality, reporting, productivity. We're also measured on an income basis. How much money are we bringing back to the shareholder in profit? How you find the right balance with that is an interesting discussion we have internally. One is driving out cost, one is increasing revenue. And those things, you can find a healthy balance with that. But when we talk about things like targeted growth, is that a value story that the affiliates, specifically APM, can develop? Can we be part of that GE store? You may have heard the idea of a GE store. Can we be a part of that GE store where we can provide solutions to customers who may only need craft labor? That's part of developing the affiliate's value story. But we have an opportunity in this business to shape what that story looks like. What is our value? What value do we bring to the table? And it's a combination of fulfilling for our number one customer, GE, and for their end customers. But it's also growth and providing more income to our shareholder. And what I want you to take out of this is that not only is it a balance, but I think we're in an environment right now where we have the opportunity to develop that story for ourselves. And we can craft what that value truly is for our shareholder. World-class Training and Development Center. We're sitting in it right now. We opened it last year. We've had a year now under our belt. We've seen a lot more activity this year than we did last year. Jeff's going to talk more about that in our discussion today. We want this to be the crown jewel of APM. This is the place that puts a sparkle in a craftsman's eye. And we're not looking to duplicate what the craft does. We have a great relationship with our union partners, and that's not what we're doing. We're taking some of the best and we're investing in them in leadership. We're investing in them in better ways of doing things and proprietary training. But this place has an opportunity to be special, to be something that people want to come and be a part of. And that's what we need to take pride in this facility and make sure we keep pride in this facility. And you may hear me talk sometimes about pride and ending meetings with pride moments. Ending a meeting with a pride moment means that you take pride in this facility and it becomes the crown jewel, and anybody that walks into this facility is impressed and wants to be a part of it. And that's how we will drive loyalty in our people, and that's how we will drive gathering the next generation of craftsmen. So we want lots of buzz and activity around this facility. Driving innovation culture. Previous slide, I talked to you about pros and techs and the next generation. Driving a culture that's talking about things like smart devices on turbine decks. It's also driving a culture that's using data to make better decisions and to drive where we can focus in on. We talked about improving safety. In the last 2 weeks, we have had a number of people working with our Center of Excellence on looking at data from a safety perspective and how can we improve our business by using data as well as from what we know is happening in the field to focus in on where we can truly drive safety success. We've got a great Center of Excellence team that does wonders sometimes with getting us data that we can use to drive decision-making and judgment. It never takes away the mental capability of leaders to take that data and make judgments off of it, but we can get better and we can continue to drive that culture of using data to drive business decisions and make smart decisions and actually make impacts on the business. And then finally, again, own the deck. Take ownership of what we do on the deck. Yes, for most of our jobs, we're a part of a bigger GE team. And we're one GE on jobs in a lot of ways. Customers, the end customers see it as one GE. But part of our solution is taking ownership of what we provide on that turbine deck to those end customers and to GE, and taking ownership of things like safety and quality. We own it. We drive it. We take responsibility and accountability for keeping our people safe, giving quality craftsmanship, driving cultures that improve performance. So those are some of the focus areas that we're looking at for 2016. Keep this fresh in your mind. Look at your goals and objectives for the year and how they fit within the larger structure for what we're focused on in 2016. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mark to talk about our spring outage season.
Thanks. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here at the campus and joining us on the video. I'm Mark Benaquisto. I'm the Vice President of Operations for APM. The spring outage forecast for 16 is going to be bigger than 15. 15 was a record year for us. 16 is going to be even bigger, especially with the increase from the Alstom jobs that are coming on. There's an outage count on here. This is somewhat accurate. This is moving. It's very live. Every day something changes. So roughly, there's 215 fossil jobs. There's 14 nuclear sites that will be at, 5 under vessel projects, and then our specialty services division between bucket tech work and welding projects, we'll have between 350 and 400 different scopes. So, I mean, realistically, we'll be at 215 fossil sites. That's roughly 377 projects, actual double majors, triple majors, things like that. So we'll have a ton of work this spring. It's going to be very challenging. We're probably putting on somewhere roughly 800,000 to 1 million man hours just in the Alstom stuff alone. So it's going to be a huge challenge for us. We're working closely with the union partners to make sure that we have the actual manpower that we're looking for and that we're getting the right type of people on our projects. Some of the productivity initiatives you've been hearing about that we're dealing with, that we're specifically engaged with, are outage standards. This is a big one for GE, for our end customer. It's basically a set scope, set hours, set number of craft, and then we're dealing with a specific task list. So this is a little bit different than what we've done in the past. We're shrinking some of the crew, but we're also lengthening the project by going to either a single shift or working 7/10s. In all the studies, it's proving out to be more productive and generally more safe. So for us, it's going to give a bigger return to our end customer. APM Bucket Tech, limited NDE qualifications. We put the Bucket Techs, every Bucket Tech through NDE training last year. And so far, we're seeing a pretty good payback from that. It's been somewhat consistent. It relieves the project from having to bring in someone special outside of what we already have there. So just adds more scope to our list of capabilities and keeps millwrights and our bucket techs on the projects longer. Eliminate second LES tech on magic inspections. Again, you'll see this as the craft helping out with the actual magic inspections versus sending 2 different techs to go and do that. Eliminate dedicated CBM inspector. So CBM inspector is basically, they're inspecting coatings and different items on the gas turbine parts. They're going to eliminate that special inspector that comes out, and our craft will actually work with the field engineer to do the inspections. So we're keeping people on the project versus bringing someone else special in and eliminating cost. Rotor in major inspection, this has been a big one for GE. There's a lot of different things that go into a rotor major in, depending on what the units had done to it in the past and if the customer will approve it. But when they do approve it, this has proved to be huge savings for GE. We've actually done one of the 7E rotor in validations out here in our shop. So, like Jake said, the training center is starting to get its use and starting to prove its value. So for us, this was a great opportunity to get our craft involved, be first ones as part of that project, and help prove it out. Shift optimization, 7-10 shift. We're going to see this more and more. This is the new standard. This is mainly driving cost out and also driving more productivity by having less tired guys, better turnovers, that sort of thing. TLA 1585 flex hose inspection. What we used to do with the flex hoses was every flex hose was pressure tested, and now we actually go into a borescope inspection, and the craft is doing that versus sending the parts off site to be pressure tested. Now we do that right on site with our people. Eliminate third-party hydraulic bolting services, use craft labor. Again, all of our craft are trained in hydraulic bolting. We're putting together an extensive program here at the training center, as well as the curriculum that we already go through at the UBC and with our other union providers. So this is just going to be a benefit to our end customer. And then night shift without an FETA, limited scopes. This is something that we're still looking at. But I expect by the end of spring, we'll actually start doing training classes, and then by fall, be ready to roll this out where specific superintendents that meet the need, feel comfortable with it, and come and do the training will be available to GE when they run into shortages or there's specific scopes that they want to tackle, that we can do a project without a field engineer on night shift. And again, as Jake said, safety, quality will drive the cost and drive the schedule, and that's going to equal the productivity. Last year, we got into a huge focus on productivity. This year, it's the main focus is safety and quality. Spring 2016 safety plan, we're not going to roll out anything special. Last year, there was a ton of communications about safety. Every week, we were changing what we were communicating to you guys. We were getting hit by every direction, and a lot of it was our own fault. We brought this on ourselves by not taking ownership of the deck and having some of these incidents. So we're going to go back to the simple message: stop and take 5 for safety. Those are the 2 programs that we're sticking with. You'll see some new hard hat stickers come out. You've got the STA cards. We use those on every task that we work on, and we review them after each break before we go back to work. We need to refocus our crews and make sure that they know what the hazards are, how to eliminate them, or how to mitigate those. The 2-minute drill card, same thing. And then operation and safety leadership videos. You'll start seeing a lot of different videos from the leadership, short 30-second, 1-minute clips with a safety message. This seems to be the most effective versus an email. There's enough emails going around that people just drown them out. So the videos are a tool that we're going to try using this spring and see how it works. Then for our quality plan, 0 defects for our performance and delivery. We're piloting the Q card in a few specific regions. We did this a little bit last year. We're going to continue the pilot, see how it works. And then FME expectations. There's been a lot of training on FME throughout last year, and we're going to reemphasize that this year. We've got 2 new videos up on the one-stop shop for any of our superintendents to have availability to. They can go to that. They can do the FME training with their craft on the website and then review this every time they get into a situation where FME is a concern. Quality visits and audits. All the operations and safety staff will be doing quality visits and doing basically an EHS quality audit when they go to sites. And then good catches and best practices. We're going to build a library where these can be shared, and you guys can go and look up any best practice that's been put out in the last 5 years. We'll put that on there, and then you have the ability to go there, look it up. If you're working on TPs and you want to know what the best practices are, we're going to create that library so that you can go in there, look up TPs, and it'll give you everything underneath that category. I'll turn it over to Jeff.
Thanks, Mark. I'm Jeff Krasinski. I'm the training manager for APM. Before we get into the slides, the one thing I want all of you guys to know is that this training center was built for all of you. And with that being said, any recommendations that you guys might have for the facility, for the equipment, for anything that goes on here that has to do with this training center, let us know. You can get with me, you can get with Stephanie, get with your service manager, your region director, however you guys run up your chain of command. feel free to let us know whatever your recommendations might be. We've got some new equipment going in. As you'll see up here in the picture, you've got 4 pillars. Those pillars are the foundation for the 7FA. So the 7FA foundation is cured. It's ready to be built. And we've got some crews coming in here very soon to go ahead and start assembling this turbine. The LMS progress, let's touch on that for just a second. So our learning management system is ready. It's done, with the exception of some data feeds and some equipment that we need from GE. So we'll have to load some very specific programs to that from GE. And once I get those, we'll be rolling that out. With any luck, we'll have it ready to show you guys as a debut with in August at our superintendent conference. Some of the equipment that we have down here in the corner, we've got our 7FA gas turbine, we've got our compressor rotor, late lean injection mock-up, which is a specialty services mock-up that will help us with future projects on the EAs. Our welding program, we've got a certification program and a qualification program here to be able to have our guys weld out in the field, whether it be a turbine, thick wall pipe, whatever the case may be. And of course, we've got our D11 HPIP section for diaphragm repairs. Some of the course offerings that we have currently are listed up here. What I want you guys to know is, as we go through our courses and as we build this curriculum, please walk through your management team to get in here, do some training with your superintendents, and have a good quality, safe environment to practice, to work, whatever the case may be that you need with your crews or with the leadership team if you need leadership training. Whatever the case may be, work with all of your supervision. Stephanie and I will put all the training together, and we'll get you guys in here and get everything scheduled. So with that being said, I will turn that back over to Jake for live questions and answers.
We've been talking for 31 minutes now. And now it's time to answer questions from you. I just want one encouragement before I turn it over to Katie for the actual taking of the questions and answering is, if you're thinking it, somebody else probably is too. And if we truly believe in a culture that's open, we can take questions and we can answer the questions that you have. And we'll be honest with you about what we can share and what we know. But I encourage you again, if you have a question, please ask it, because somebody else is probably thinking the same question, and you'll help not only yourself but others try and find an answer to that question. So with that, we're going to have Katie.
Okay, so just real quick, let me give you some instructions so that we can get through a nice clean process for Q&A. For those who are joining us over the video feed, you should see a comment box, just like the one you should see now on the screen. Please submit your questions into that comment box. You may have to pause the video, but you can type your question, hit submit, and then you'll want to return back to the video feed to be able to listen to your question being answered. And to do that, if you're on an Android phone, you'll single tap the play button. If you're on an iPhone, you'll double tap the play button to return back to the video feed. For those of us in the room, please feel free to raise your hand and ask any questions. It's a completely open forum. I have Jeanette. She's got a secondary microphone, just like the one I have. And so the one question request I have of you is just that you wait until you get she can get the microphone over to you. And that way everyone joining us over the video feed can also hear the question being asked before we answer it. And I have some questions rolling in, but do we want to start with a question from the room? Dawn, Jeanette's bringing you the microphone.
I guess this would be to Jake. How did letting go of GSSI benefit APM?
It hurt. It hurt short term, definitely. GSSI was a business that we grew from scratch. It was homegrown. When it was first presented to us as being an idea, and I'll talk about the vision of why in a minute, it didn't sit well. The initial reaction was no. But when you think about the vision for why that decision was made, our customer wanted one solution for all safety professionals across the globe. And when you apply that to other sections of the business, you start to see where that gives an opportunity for us to, again, develop a value story where we can be one solution for things where there may be multiple solutions today. We've talked about the Alstom integration and how we're already starting to get turbine deck work from Alstom where they were using third parties to do that work. Well, if the vision is one solution for the turbine deck, we're the one solution. So we can use that strategy to our advantage and long-term in developing that story that says we can be your one solution in this segment, in this segment, and this segment. The turbine decks, especially technician stuff we do, where we take ownership of it and we start to drive it and we can be that one solution. So it hurt initially, in short term it hurts, but long term we can use that overall strategy to our advantage to be the one solution for the turbine deck.
Thank you, Jake. All right, I have quite a few questions rolling in on the video feed, so I'll go ahead and take a few of those and then we'll pass it back to the room. I think we'll just kind of alternate back and forth if that's okay. So the first one I have, as a craft worker, a millwright, will I have access to the best practices that you talked about, Mark, as well as the training and training videos?
I would say at the beginning, no. You would access that through your superintendent as you come to the job site. But long term, as we develop the LMS, I would imagine that we would start putting that stuff in there, and then as people register for classes through the LMS and build a profile, that they would have access to that.
Good. Another question. I've noticed on our Facebook page that the North Region for Fossil Services is being recognized a lot for their good safety on the job. My question is, what can we do in the South Region to increase our safety and come up to par with the rest of the business who's being recognized?
Is Eric Dissler on the line?
He should be. Eric Dissler should be on the line.
Let's turn that one to Eric Dissler.
Eric Dissler?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Here we go.
The answer is your superintendent needs to get that information to corporate.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. If we have good millwrights that are interested in working for specialty services, where should we direct them for more information?
You should send their name to me first.
Mark Benequisto.
No, they can reach out. They can reach out to Dan Reinhardt's group. On the website, there's contact information on apmdelivers.com. So any one of the leaders from APM Specialty Services can be reached through that website, and then they can get a hold of them through there.
Okay. We'll take one more question from the video feed, and then we'll turn it back over to the room. In honesty, having or not having a field engineer on the night shift sounds like it could be disastrous. It could cause some issues. What is the logic behind this, and how will we get ahead of the issues?
Well, the logic behind it is staying competitive. So there's certain scopes that GE's struggling with being competitive in, and this is the B&E class. So this is a market that was left behind for a while as the F was developed and newer technologies were developed. And now we're revisiting that as a whole from a shareholder down. So to be competitive with some of the mom and pop organizations, this is our opportunity to be competitive in that arena. So with the right preparation, the right training, I think you can be very successful.
Good. Is there another question from the room? Tanis?
This question's for Mark, our VP of Operations. Historically, we have had quite a bit of external work in the Southwest in the past. What is APM's strategy moving forward for external work within the Southwest on the ship channel?
This one's for me, or you want this
You
one?
want to? I'll take this one.
I'll take it. Our number one strategy is fulfill for our customer, and our number one customer is GE. So, I would say years ago, historically, we did a lot of work in the Houston area, especially in the ship channel, and a lot of it was third-party or tier 2 type opportunities, and we became unfocused to our customer. And when we lost that focus, we lost a lot of opportunity on both sides of the fence. So our number one focus is our GE customer, but Andy Mills runs the South region, and Andy has full ability to work with his GE partners to find external opportunities. And if GE's not interested and they're okay with it, then we can tackle any opportunity out there.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. I think Aaron had one. Tanis, would you mind just pass it to Aaron?
What is the plan for reducing safety incidents?
Well, I mentioned for a couple of weeks now, probably a month or so now, we've been digging into the data to try and identify, are there trends, there are things that we're not seeing that can drive safety improvement. Some of the data that we've seen suggests, for example, that we're having injuries on Mondays and Fridays. So do you have a focus around weekends and making sure that people aren't being distracted by something that may be occurring on the weekend, like a Super Bowl party on Sunday night, coming in Monday morning a little bit, dragging a little bit. Some of the data suggests we have injuries at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which means that we've just had a good lunch, maybe some Mexican food, some fajitas and beans and rice, and I want you to go back and sit at your desk and look at the clock when it says 2 and see how you're feeling. And does that drive some safety as well? But really beyond that, beyond digging into the data, which we're still trying to analyze and see if there's trends, what Mark talked about is really how we take ownership of the deck from a safety perspective and being empowered to stop. When something doesn't look right, you have the power to stop. And I was encouraged last week by the message from Jim Caveney, who is a senior executive leader within GE, who sits on our board of directors, and who sent a personal message last week about something that happened in his career and the implications for not stopping when you had a concern. And if we can empower our people to truly believe that if there's something not right, that they can stop and they can make sure we do it right, that's how we improve safety. It's the disciplines that Mark talked about, taking 5 for safety, doing your 2-minute drills, doing your STA cards after breaks. It's being disciplined in our execution around safety. If we do that, we'll improve. And then in combination with the data dives and some of the projects we're working on to see if we can get those major step changes in how we perform work and engineering some things to solutions. But really it's about discipline in our execution and empowering our people to stop when something's not working right.
Thank you, Jake. Another question we just got on through the video feed. We've talked about having a library of best practices. Will those be shared with APM personnel only, or will they also be shared with GE as well as other contractors?
It would be shared with GE for sure.
Yeah.
Other contractors would need a definition. GE contractors or
Maybe GE contractors like Granite?
GE contractors, I would assume, would have access. We're all on the same systems, whether that's GSI or somebody else, they would all have access.
Okay. Thank you. What qualifications do I need for employment as an APM millwright apprentice?
As an apprentice.
As an apprentice.
Typically that's when the career starts. So we're not looking for a whole lot of training and qualifications there. I mean, the minimum to get on an APM job as an apprentice is an OSHA 10 card, and then it builds from there. You know, there's a specific laid out program in our progression cycle that goes basically through the 4 years of the apprenticeship that will get them to that point. So whether it's rigging, high torque, GE familiarization, the millwright 16 safety class, scaffolding class, the 2G gas turbine and steam turbine classes. Those all come over time, but the minimum day one, I'm an apprentice. You have to have an OSHA 10 card to get on site.
Okay, thank you, Mark. We've talked about the concept of not having the field engineer on the night shift. With that, is there any thought of BOP contracts in the future?
If there's an opportunity for a balance of plant, BOP work, I think we need to see it and take a look at it. As Mark already mentioned, we can't lose sight of what our number one objective is, and that's fulfillment excellence for our number one customer, which is GE. But there are strategies associated with even balance of plant work that provide us an opportunity to be better at fulfillment for our number one customer. Again, if we have work opportunities that we can provide our craftsmen that are outside of the turbine deck, outside of peak, but that keeps them engaged in our culture, keeps them engaged with APM and loyal to APM, that's not only an income play, that's a strategy for fulfillment excellence. And that's crafting the affiliate story and developing that story that we need to do. So yes, if there's an opportunity, we need to look at it. It may not always make sense, but if we can put it within that framework, then there may be an opportunity for us to go do it.
Thank you. Another one from the feed. How can we fix the communication breakdown between the workers and the management? Specifically, as a keyman, sometimes we feel like there's no one talking to us and keeping us updated about what's coming next and coming up in the business.
Eric Dissler.
Eric Dissler?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is this event here actually helps with that. We are looking at a lot of other ways internally to get further here. We just got to continue. We're working on ways for superintendents, more messages, key men, and the rest of the journey on the job. But we got a lot of work to do, and we made a point to the next couple of months to really deep dive and get it.
So, Eric, your phone's breaking up, so I'll take it. But I think what Eric's trying to say is, we know there's a communication gap, and we're working on that. The key men fall into a special category for us. They're at the point where they don't have computers, so they're not necessarily getting the emails. Most of them do have cell phones, so we have a way to communicate with them that way. We're looking at a few different things as far as either group casts, things like that, where we can send out blanket text messages to keep people updated. We're also changing the way we schedule our jobs. So as we do that, we'll be able to share more information once we get all the bugs worked out of it. And then people will have a better idea of what's coming up and what's coming down the pipe. So I think as we move forward, they should see an improvement in communication, especially in the Northeast where the Keyman program was born.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any more questions from the room? Dawn?
My question is, what is our plan to address the craft labor shortage during our peak outage times?
Well, thank you, Dawn. Great question. I have a few questions for you after this. Between myself, Jim Susan, Dan Reinhardt, Eric Dissler, Jake, we all work with our different union partners. Jake and I and Eric now sit on an association called the Association of Union Contractors. This is a big player especially in the Midwest, Northeast area, where we do a lot of what they call national maintenance agreement projects. So I specifically sit on a committee that's called the next generation of craftsmen. So that's working with the different union leads and other contractors and identifying ways to recruit new employees. And we're doing that through different vocational schools. We have one locally here, the Pasadena ISD, where the whole high school focus is just on, they get their main education, but they're also doing extracurricular stuff in the vocational side that prepares them to go out into an industry type field, like a millwright, like a pipe fitter, where they're picking up different skills. So they'll take welding classes, they'll take some HVAC classes, different things that these are the types of kids that aren't really willing to go to college. They don't want to go to college. They're hands-on people. So we're looking at different avenues there. We're looking at trade shows. We're looking at helmets to hard hats. We've had a lot of success with helmets to hard hats in the millwright and pipe fitter industry. As we get more integrated with APCom, we're also seeing that on the Boilermaker side. And then, too, we've challenged the unions to start looking at different ways to cross-train their own people. There's 14 different building trades out there, and there's probably not enough work to keep them all viable. They need to look at restructuring how they do business. There's enough craftsmen. It's just there's not necessarily enough work for each one of them. So they need to figure out how they can combine their locals, look out of the box and see what else they can do differently. Other than that, it's really working with GE and utilities to flatten out the peaks. Right now we go up in April and down, and up in October and down, and there's really nothing in the middle. It comes down quick and hard. So to get those peaks to flatten out and stretch out a little bit, most of our guys are happy working 9 months a year and taking 4 months off over the summer to go fishing, spend time with their kids, do that kind of thing. So it's a big challenge, but I think we're starting to see some progress. I mean, we get monthly to quarterly reports, depending on what union it is, on where they're at with their numbers and if they're increasing numbers or if they've lost more to attrition. So,
thank you, Mark. Another question we just got in from the video feed. What resources do we use for data to drive innovation?
Tim?
Julie?
Julie, you want to take a stab at that?
Can we pass the microphone so that we can hear the answer?
Yeah, maybe frame that question, what technology, what devices, not just resources from a people perspective, but resources from a technology perspective to drive data analytics.
Sure. So our data analytics are driven through multiple feeds. All the data that comes in from our time tracking system, our viewpoint system, is put into a data warehouse. And from that data warehouse, we can extract all kinds of data that we need, put that into Tableau and other formats to produce the results that Jake was talking about and Mark was talking about earlier, how we are reducing productivity 16%, where our safety catches are. Aaron has been specifically working on a lot of the safety data coming in. So we also get that through the SERs. So if you're on the phone, you're filling out SERs, that's very valuable data. That also comes in, it goes to a data warehouse where we can take and basically strip that data apart, pull out what we need, and produce it from there. So
I would add to what Julie's saying. I mean, every project that comes in has a specific task list tied to it. So when we get into looking at 7FA hot gas paths, we can pull every 7FA hot gas path, look at every task, and start analyzing where the data goes up and down and why. We can see which superintendents are struggling in certain areas, whether it's on installations or it's on rigging different pieces. We can see that, and then we can put together training and a group of superintendents that look like they're having higher numbers, bring them in, have a discussion with them, either give them more training or show them different ways to do things that'll help drive that number down, but in a safe manner.
And it drives safety performance as well. It goes to Aaron's question. We can start digging into that data, identifying what technologies, what scopes, what tasks are we having injuries on. We can focus in on those tasks. We can focus in on the superintendents who are doing it great, who are knocking out of the park. Bring them in here. What best practices do you have that we can share with the rest of the business to drive performance across the board?
Thank you. All right, one we just got in from the video feed. As a second-year apprentice, I'm wondering if the 7FA course that we talked about will be open only to journeymen, or will apprentices that show advanced skill and desire to learn be allowed to take these types of courses?
So with the way our courses are designed, the superintendent will have the ability to bring his crew in here. And I'd like to keep it with superintendents and crews versus individual people that don't really have the supervision that's needed. So if I bring a superintendent in and a couple of key men and a couple of apprentices, now you have a crew to work together, and with that crew, it's going to be very similar to what you would see in the field. They're going to get a chance to work together. They're going to get a chance to do it in an environment that's controlled, and they're going to be able to learn the equipment very efficiently.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, we've talked about shortage of craft labor. What can we be doing to keep our millwrights loyal to APM from other competitors?
That's the challenge for the operations team, to line up enough work in succession to keep them busy, to keep them from wanting to go to other contractors. So that's the concept behind the core team concept, is to stack outages one after another so that a team can go outage to outage to outage. It's a challenge, but that's where we're trying to get to.
Thank you.
I think we also, we hear it from the field all the time, APM's different. Our safety culture's different. That when they come to work for APM, we have a different focus than what they see in a lot of other areas. That goes back to that fulfillment excellence. Fulfillment excellence is not just a customer solution, it's also a potential solution to the next generation of craft labor. If we have that, we keep that reputation of being one of the safest, most quality businesses to work for. That drives loyalty. In addition to what Mark's talking about with schedules and with forecasting and being able to show them a map that says, here's where you're going to work. If we have that keep that reputation of being the top contractor, the top employer of millwrights from a fulfillment excellence perspective, will drive loyalty. And that's not just operations. That's the entire business's responsibility. You have an effect on how we perform safely in the field, but how well you help our superintendents with what's happening in the trailer, so he spends less time in the trailer and more time on the turbine deck. That's all of our responsibility.
All right, we have time for about 2 more questions, so I'm going to take one from the video feed, and then if we have one in the room, we'll take that too. Would it be possible for the superintendents to get training to the level of becoming a safety professional, so that you have both a superintendent and a safety professional working the job?
So he fills 2 hats?
Yes.
One side of the hat's superintendent, the other side of the hat is safety professional?
If I'm reading this correctly, yes.
I'd answer that question this way. Part of owning the deck means that our superintendent owns safety already. And I don't mean that flippantly. But what I mean by that is that primary responsibility for safety of employees starts with the superintendent. So in a way, you are already a safety professional. Now, I would never discourage anybody from going and getting more training and getting things like a CSP or some other certifications that come with safety. And maybe that gives you an opportunity to provide added value on the turbine deck because you have that training as well. But I would first answer the question by saying that we want our superintendents to take ownership of the safety, whether or not they have that safety professional designation or not. Is that a fair answer?
That's a fair answer. And I would reiterate the fact that if there's superintendents out there that want additional training, they just need to bring that up to their manager and discuss that. But there should be no reason why we're turning down training that fits in those categories. So if there's something they want or they desire to have that'll make them feel more comfortable out on the project and feel that they have better background in that expertise, we should definitely be doing that.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions from the room? If not, I can take one more from the video feed. Okay. So the last question we'll do right now is, I have some ideas about innovation designs for tasks on the job site. Who should I contact and where can I submit these?
Tim Hoke
Tim Hoke.
Tim.hoke at ge.com, and Julie Doyle. Or through the Boomerang.
Okay. All right, we are at 1 o'clock, so we are going to go ahead and wrap up. But I do want to say any questions that we got live through the video feed, we will continue to take all of those and we'll get feedback out to you. So we will be providing answer to the questions that were submitted. Also, for any of you in the room, if you had additional questions that you didn't get an opportunity to ask, please go back, look at the email that we sent you, the original invitation. There's a link on there for a survey. And then on that survey, there's a box for questions. You can put any questions in there for about the next week. We'll take those and we'll add them to the rest of the questions that we have compiled, and we'll get answers back out to you. Also, we will be making this whole video feed available after we close the event. It'll be posted up on our APM Buzz YouTube channel. And so you'll be able to go back and review it, watch it, share it if you want with somebody. We'll make that available. So I'm going to turn it over to Jake for any final comments.
It's 1 o'clock, and you've been very engaged for an hour, so I very much appreciate that. And I only have one final message, and it's where we started, and it's where we're going to finish. Focus on zero. Keep our people safe. And that includes everybody that's listening, and including everybody in here. We are all together as one APM to keep our employees safe. And so with that, I thank you all for joining, for being a part of what makes APM great. And your work is what makes us successful, so I very much appreciate it. Thank you very much.